Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Kansept Knives Reedus, which is a newer design from them with a really good price tag, which is kind of par for the course for Kansept. They do a great job in both the budget category and in the premium category. Every now and then their designs are kind of, weird and different, but that's good. I think the best thing about Kansept knives is their pricing. So if you are new to knives or you're new to Kansept knives, I would invite you to check them out. I will link Kansept knives in general down in the description so that you can explore them if you want to. And I'll also link the Reedus if you'd like to check that out. It definitely is available. Helps my channel when you use those links, but that's entirely up to you. Thanks so much to Kansept for sending this in for review, and thanks to my patrons for supporting me. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Let's go ahead and get a measurement of this knife. You'll be happy to know that there is a budget version of this that is also an excellent, it's got an excellent price tag on it. This is 8 inches on the dot, 3.5 inches for the blade, almost exactly 3.5 inches for the cutting edge as well. Really, really nice size here. But yeah, there's a budget version of this in G10 and 154 cm that also has an excellent price tag. So you can check that out if you want to. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rad Model 1 and the Ontario Rad Model 2. So you can see here, this is what I would call a full-size knife, not an XL knife, but a full-size knife, very close to the size of the Rat 1. Let's go ahead and put it up against the Demco AD 20.5. There we go. How about up against the Spyderco Para 3? And last but not least, let's go ahead and put it up against the Benchmade Bug Out. There we go. All right, how's the action on this knife? Kansept knives are made in China. They are definitely a premium knife manufacturer, and their quality has just been getting better and better and better. This is a pretty good example of that. The action is pretty good. You can use this little slot to reverse flick it. We're going to talk more about that. The thumb studs, I think, are probably the best way to open it, and it's fairly comfortable. These are a little bit pokey. The detent is tuned properly. Fortunately, there is just a freaking amazing amount of access to the lock bar. This is just beautifully done, and the action is very, very smooth. It's very snappy. The detent is definitely tuned properly for a thumb stud opening knife, and it really is very good. So the action is very nice. Let's go ahead and do thickness up against the, this category is called carry profile. for the timestamps, the algorithm that's looking for keywords in my content that creates the timestamps. Let's go ahead and do thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. It's really not all that thick. It's actually slightly thinner than Spyderco Para 3. Length and height up against the PM2 and the Para 3. You can see here, this guy is a little bit longer than the Para 3, not quite as long as the PM2, nowhere near as tall as either, which is nice. This is going to be pretty friendly in the pocket for a full titanium knife. Let's go ahead and take a look at the inside here. There is actually a little bit of milling for weight reduction, so that's nice. We'll go ahead and weigh it. Materials, by the way, we are looking at S35 VN, which is fantastic. Then we have titanium and a titanium backspacer, but a steel, well, to my knowledge, yes, a steel clip, which is okay considering the price point here. Weight on the Reedus coming in at 3.84 ounces, which is pretty darn good. Under 4 ounces, and the balance is also pretty nice. The main balance point being right there where you're going to have your index finger in the standard grip anyway. So yeah, pretty good stuff. Let's go ahead and do a measurement of blade stock thickness real quick. Blade stock thickness on the Reedus, I'm going to guess that that's 145. Am I right? No, it's less, 137 thousandths. So a little thinner than the Spyderco PM2 on the stock, on the spine. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'll get out my tools as per usual. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. The pivot is a T8, and Kansept still wanting to rock those T6 screws on a lot of their models. That's okay. I really wish that they would start using T8, but this is minimal hardware, as I call it. 2 screws on each side and some extras for the clip. Not a big deal. As long as you have, quality tools and a place to put your hardware, you should be good to go. All right, let's move into the meat and potatoes here. This is a fairly straightforward knife. I think the main area where there's some uniqueness here is this sort of secondary grind. It is very thick out here, but it does create for a very, very strong tip. This area here is flat ground, and then we have this secondary area. And, really I don't know that people are going to, like, in practice, be able to make very specific use of this. I mean, I guess if you're super rough on your knives, then this tip will survive a bit better than if it were just flat ground all the way out to the tip, but it looks cool. I think that's the main thing, right? We have these heavy chamfers right here off of the spine of the blade, and the transition right here where we have the flat, it comes out here, and then this, it's not a swedge, right? It's just these heavy chamfer lines. It kind of looks cool. I don't know why this looks like a tactical duck, right? Airplane kind of, I'm not really sure, but in a cool way, not in a bad way, right? It just looks cool. I kind of like it. This area right here, while it's fine and, truthfully, it works if you dig at it a bit. The thumb studs also work. The thumb studs are just a little bit too small and pointy, and this little opening slot is just a little bit too short and narrow and small. Truthfully, I think that this was a missed opportunity that could have gone one of two different directions. We could have removed the this little opening oval, and we could have had wider, bigger studs. Again, I'll use the rat as an example. These thumb studs are about perfect, and it's not about hand size. Really, they're just more comfortable. The little pokey ones, right, are just not comfortable after a while. These work. They're fine. Don't get me wrong. But it's just a little bit pokey. We could have gone that route. What I think we should have done here is remove the thumb stud completely. And this whole area, this opening hole should have just been bigger. It should have just covered like a larger area. That would have made it much easier to do this, which is very difficult, and the reverse flick. Truthfully, just wheeling it out, right? That makes it a little bit easier if you're wearing gloves. It's definitely easier to manipulate a knife that has an opening hole if you're wearing gloves versus a knife with thumb studs. So it works this way. I just think it would have been better to do it that way, right? Ergonomically, it's pretty darn nice, honestly. I mean, there's nothing here that's like hand melting excellence, but these areas are all nicely knocked down. This is a pretty generic knife handle profile. You can even choke up right here. I'd be very careful, because the only indicator that you are too far up is essentially the initial cutting edge, right? So be careful about that. There's a nice sharpening choil there. I mean, this should be a fairly easy knife to resharpen, save for the fact that this actually is a less aggressive angle or a thicker angle up here, right? So yeah, watch out for that. We have bead blasted scales with just a little bit of, it's kind of a little pattern. It's fine. It would have been very boring otherwise. At least they did something, so I appreciate that, right? Yeah, there's the handle texturing looks nice and provides actually a little bit of traction, because these are deep enough and there's enough of them and they're consistent enough, right? That there's a little bit of texture pattern there that will provide traction, I think is what I was trying to say. I'm not sure why they didn't mill a spot for the clip on the left side, right? It's just like all of a sudden in 2023, nobody cares about left-handed people. So I'm going to keep saying it. Everybody, left-handed people exist. I'm right-handed, right? I'm fine. Like, great. I'm happy with all these. I can use them, right? But left-handed people exist. Just mill the freaking pocket clip on the left side. Just mill the holes for the clip on the left side. It's not that you're not offending that many people. And the people who are like, I don't want to look at the holes. Do they really matter? Like, do we really want to take that opinion? Sorry. To me, that is an absolute trash opinion. I think that left-handed people should be able to carry these knives. I mean, it's already a right-handed frame lock, right? But it works. I mean, left-handed people can easily they're used to manipulating right-handed frame locks because, 90% of the world is right-handed. So 90% of the knives on the market, at least, probably 98% are right-handed. Yeah, lefty clip positions. Come on. It's not that big of a deal, right? The pocket clip is pretty good. As is the case with a lot of pocket clips, I just think it's a bit long. It probably could have just been a little shorter, but the clip is actually nice. There's a couple of T6 screws that are domed, so not recessed or anything like that. The clip is not recessed, but it's fine. It actually goes in and out of the pocket really nicely.
They opted for a screw back here, so we had to drop the mounting position of the clip a little bit, but that's also okay, no big deal. There's no lanyard thing at all, which is okay with me. There are still people left who like lanyards, right? But let's talk about populations, who we should be catering to. There are way more left-handed people who enjoy pocket knives than there are people who absolutely need a lanyard mounting spot on their knife, right? That's the case. These people are going to be like, you always joke and then you kind of like throw the whole lanyard crowd away, but you're going to stand up for lefties. We all know that the lanyard community, when it comes to the knife world, is almost nobody. I mean, I get, if you still like lanyards, you like attaching lanyards to your pocket knives, that's perfectly fine, right? There are still plenty of knives out there that have lanyard things, right? But this is like a very small, like knives coming out without lanyard mounting apparatuses, right? Whatever the plural form of apparatus is. It's a very small thing versus the issue that has been plaguing the left-handed knife community for decades. For decades. That's a real problem. Not, oh no, where am I going to attach my lanyard? Left-handed people want to buy these knives. My God, it is absolutely insane. The number, this year, the number of knives that I've seen that are just not set up for left-handed people. It's ridiculous. Okay. But anyways, my dad is left-handed and he's always talking about like everything is made for right-handed people. It sucks. I just couldn't imagine. I'm sure that it actually is really frustrating to be left-handed. Anyways, there is a steel lock bar insert that doubles as the over travel stop, which is nice. You know, that all that rant, we're still only 11 and a half minutes in. It's impressive for me, right? Lock bar insert. We have a stop pin located in its usual spot. We have a little bit of shouldering. It's actually a decent size stop pin, a little thicker than what I normally see on these knives, so that's nice. Not that it really matters. Runs on bearings. No blade play, up, down, left, or right. Very solid. No lock stick. The natural lockup percentage from the factory coming in at 35%, something like that. Good geometry. Like I said, no lock stick, no pivot lash. Very smooth in here. Kansept is just getting better and better and better. With their factory pivot action. It's very nice. A nice definitive click into the closed position. I think this is centered. If it's slightly off, it's slightly off. Maybe from me playing with it. Let's see if we can give it a little bit of a turn on the pivot there. See if it goes back to center. Maybe not. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. These can always be adjusted. If your knife is not centered, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world, right? Most of the time. This is a free spinning pivot, I should point out. It's wanting to come back a little bit, but I think we're actually going to have to turn both sides, which is annoying. Something else that should absolutely be present in 2023 alongside lefty pocket clip mounting positions is pivots that are not free spinning, right? D-shaped pivot barrels, because otherwise, look what we have to do, right? This is a stupid thing to have to do to mess with the pivot, right? So I'm turning the pivot and the action is a little bit tighter and the centering is actually maybe slightly closer to center. So if I wanted to get this centered, what I'd have to do is unscrew these two screws here and perhaps the two screws on the other side, loosen up the pivot, right? Take a piece of paper, wedge it over, crank the pivot all the way down, and then crank the body screws down, then pull the piece of paper out, unscrew the pivot to get the action the way that I wanted, and the blade should come back to center, right? I think that at this price, everything should be coming from the factory pretty much dead center. Things happen, right? Most of the time, Kansept knives come centered. An off-center blade is not a blade that I will send back. I'm not going to be like, this knife is defective because the blade is off-center, but it absolutely is annoying, right? Even knives that cost $50, like when they're off-centered from the factory, it's like, come on, what is this, 2008, right? Yeah, so there you go. Truthfully, all things considered, it's a little bit of a quirky knife, but this is another example of Kansept really doing a pretty darn good job with, keeping their prices down on a nice, high-quality knife, right? This is a $180 knife, which I don't think is bad at all. My guess is, based on the ridiculous number of Kansepts that I get, I know that people are going to be like, well, I've bought 2 Kansepts, and one of them was off-centered, so it's 50-50. Okay, take it from somebody who has literally, you can type metal complex Kansept into the YouTube search bar. I think I have reviewed 50 or 60 Kansept knives. I honestly have no idea. The vast majority of them have come centered. So if you want to get this information from somebody who has handled a lot of these things and can actually show it with video evidence, feel free to go back and look. I would say 95 to 98% of them have come centered. I'd like to see everybody be at 99% plus, right? But that's just my estimate. So my guess is that if you order one of these, it will probably come centered. Same with the budget version. $180, I think, is a very fair price for this. It doesn't absolutely blow me away. I've definitely seen, this level of quality and this materials come in a bit less, a bit more competitive, but this is still competitive. It's very good, right? All things considered. And I imagine the budget version is also great, right? So as this sits, this is a generally recommendable knife. I think it's nice. I think you'd be making a good choice. There's a couple of little quirky things. Left-handed people will obviously be frustrated with this, but for everybody else, I think this is a good buy. I will link it down in the description along with Kansept knives in general so you guys can check them out. That's going to be pretty much it today. Thanks so much to Kansept for sending this in for me to take a look at. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do of course have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like. So check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.